Hello everybody and welcome to Conan Exiles. In today's video I want to talk to you all about thrall commands, or follower commands as we like to call them. This will be on the PS5, so this will especially help those who are PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 players. And hopefully by the end of this video you will have a better understanding of just what thrall commands are, how they work and the different ones that you can use. And I've got some people here behind me for examples that we're going to showcase in this video. And it doesn't only tie to these particular ones, it can relate to any particular human follower in the game. We won't be covering pets in this video, but any particular human follower that you have, all these commands will work for. So when I say follower commands, what exactly are we referring to? Well, if I try and press any buttons now, I can't do anything. These people are all just static and standing here. Now there's a couple of reasons why. One is because I haven't told them to follow me, and also I haven't given them a command. But the second option, I've not been able to give them a command, is because I haven't instructed them to follow me in the first place. Now when it comes to follower commands, there are your basic commands. So from when a follower is in their guard position, as these are now, you can interact with them and tell them to follow you. So if we come along here and we use Delincia for example, if I walk up to her and then I hold square, which is interact for me, the option I want to look for is this waving hand here, and as you can see it says follow. If I hit this, as you'll see at the top right there, now it now says that Delincia is now following me. So if I was to move back a bit, she will now move wherever I move to. So even if I move here, she will follow me around. So that is the follow command. And as you can see, if you look below her fighter title in the red brackets there, it says following. So she's following me. Now if I logged out with her still following me, she would change from following to scouting, and then eventually she would return to the last place where I had her set down guarding. So she would return to that spot there. What is always advised is when you've finished with a follower, if you hold your interact button once again and then you use this hand one here again that says stand guard, this will pick them up, and then with your right toggle you can place them wherever you want, hit your R1 to place them, and it will show you that you've told that particular NPC, or in this case Delincia, to guard. And as you can see, she's now back in that position and she's now guarding. I can't tell her to do anything else. She doesn't move if I move. And other commands within the followers, if you hold your interact menu again, instead of telling her to follow, I could also break bond if I want to, which I don't want to do that. Again, I can pick her up and move her somewhere else. I can access her stats, so that shows you that sheet there. And then we've also got this option here, which is behavior. And then you've got open inventory. So if we select open inventory, that brings up her inventory on the right, as you can see, with what she's wearing and the weapons she has, and then her inventory space. But the one we want to look at is this one here, behavior. So if we interact with this, we then get a secondary wheel. Now what we can do with this wheel is we can set her engagement, so what we want her to do. We can set her tactics, so that would be whether we want her to prioritize her range or her melee, or to stand guard. Follow distance is how close we want her to follow us when we're out and about. So if we want her really close or to keep further back, we can set that. And then we've also got an option here for emotes, so we could get her to do an emote if we like while she stood guarding. So what you would want to do, your main one that you want to look at is engagement. So if we click on engagement, we get another wheel once again. Lots of different options here. So at the bottom left we've got attack nothing, which is what she's set on at the moment just because of where we are. Which would mean if she got attacked, she will literally just stand there and get attacked and potentially eventually die. This one, guard me, means if you were out and about in the world, and just for example you go over into the city just behind us there, Sepamaru, if she is set on guard me, or he, if it's a male follower that's following you, they will not attack anyone around them, nor will enemies attack them. Obviously, certainly in Sepamaru, other parts of the world they will get attacked straight away. But on guard, me, your follower, will not attack unless you either tell them to attack with a command or you get hit by somebody. So that is a real useful one to use if you don't want your follower just running off and starting a war everywhere. So behaviour, engagement. So that's to attack nothing. That's to guard only you. Guard area isn't really very effective unless you place them on a door frame, which you can now do. So they will just guard that particular area. And then attack all enemies means pretty much like it says. If you had them set on attack all enemies, if they spot a nearby enemy but you don't give them a command to go and attack, if that enemy is within their aggro range that you've set, they'll just run off and attack them. And then this option here, attack distance, if you set this either very low at 5 meters, a bit more at 10, 15 or 30, or you can go right up to 50. That is the distance she would need to be from an enemy before she'll go after them and attack them. So the lower this is, means the closer an enemy will have to be before they will engage with them. And it's the exact same thing with the chase distance. If you had this set on the very low at 5 meters, if she was guarding a doorway and an enemy came to attack but then ran away, she would only chase them for up to 5 meters and then she'd return to her guard post. So that is the very basic commands that are within your individual follower, and this works if you have war party as well, which we'll touch on shortly. But your other commands, and it works exactly the same on anybody. So again, we're going to use Leah here for an example. I'm going to tell Leah to follow me. She's an entertainer, so we would always get our entertained buff while we're out and about. As you can see, she is following. She will move exactly the same. Now if I get somewhere and I don't want her to follow me a moment, if I look away from her slightly and hold square, I can then hit this button to the bottom right here, which is stop, to which you will give the stop command. So now if I move, she will not move anywhere, but as you can see, it still shows that she's following. So she's still following me, but she's not going to move because I've told her to wait there. Again, you've also got, if you hold square, you've got an attack option, or you've got the move option. So if I click this option, she's obviously not going to move because I've told her to stop following. So again, you would hold down square there, click return, so that she's now engaged in following you again. So if I want her to move over there, I can look in the direction of where I want her to move. It's probably because we're squashed into this small area. But if I wanted her to move, she would move, or I can just tap square, tell her to go over there, she will go over there, but then she'll run so far back to me because they want to stay close to where you are. But you can pretty much use your square to tell them to go somewhere, and if you've got your HUD dot on your screen, you can point that at an enemy and you can tap square and they will run off, pull out their weapon and go and attack them. Again, emotes are very handy because you can also set them, like for an entertainer for example, I have it on the relax and then hand on hip emote, which is what you saw her doing. Otherwise she would, when you place her down, she would go straight into doing one of her dances that you saw her doing. Now I can just tell her to stop there as well in the menu, stop following. It's a little bit easier to use the whole square. Now I can't use square to command her to follow me though, so she won't follow me now, but I also can't tell her to start following me. So you need to make sure, if you just want them to stop a moment where you are, that if you have a friend following you, that you just do it this way. So you tell them to return, or you tell them to stop following like that. And again, if you're a little bit away but you want them to return to you, can hit the return button, and even if they're quite a distance from you, they will run back to you. And they also have another feature which only works more so once you have some perks in your perk section, which we'll talk about shortly, where you can have an option called Irritate, meaning that while this person is following you, the enemy will get aggro to them more than you, so they'll take some of the aggro off you, which is really helpful sometimes. You can set this up in War Party as well, but it's always recommended with War Party when you have 2 followers to have one of them that can do the most damage with the Irritate perk enabled, and then the one who's going to be close up taking most of the aggro with it disabled. So the secondary one disabled and the one up close taking all the aggro enabled, so that they keep the person occupied, allowing the one with it disabled more time to start getting their AoE going or dish out the damage. And this can help you in combat a lot as well. So once again, we're going to pick her up a minute, place her back there. So that's where they're fighting and sending it. And just as I say, this can work with even War Party. Now if I try and ask these two to follow me, so I say you follow, but then I want this young lady to follow me, as you can see there, it swapped them over. It told her to stop following, but then it told her to start following. And this is down to our perk system. So what we want to do, if we go into our perks a minute here, I've got nothing in at the moment, as you can see. If we go down to authority and we enable that first perk, as you can see there, this will now start to affect a follower. So if I have her follow me, behavior, and as you can see there now, we now have the Irritate option. So if she was the second person in a War Party, because she has the big two-handed weapon, I would disable her Irritate perk and keep it enabled on the one-handed mace person if I wanted these to take the aggro, to allow her to not get aggro on her as much, so that she can dish out more damage. But again, even with that first perk, if I tell her to follow, she's now stopped, and as you can see, this one's now following. So that's not quite War Party. The way we get War Party is if we go to authority and we fill this in again. Recommend that you use healthy diet for your followers, because as you can see, rather than this one, this is the better option for them, because you can see with the benefits there of what that gives. So we're going to fill this out once again, and then we're going to go to our final option, which is what gives us 2 different options here. You have well trained, which we'll talk about in just a second, and then War Party, which means you can increase your followers by 1. So we've now chosen War Party. So we have this young lady already following. However, if I now select this young lady as well, as you can see, both now following me. So wherever you go, you can have 2 followers with you, but you must have the War Party perk from level 20 in your authority to allow you to have 2 followers. So if I just place them down again a second, that's how you get War Party. If you want to spec into a follower build and have just 1 person following you, you will need to respec your points, excuse me, and what you do this time is choose exactly the same options once again until you get to your final perk, where you want to be choosing well trained. And if we go back to Delencia for this one, as you can see, once again, get her to follow. Now you notice her health bar has just changed. She hasn't lost health, she's actually just gained a chunk of health. But if we look at her stats, on top of what she was already getting, and she is fully leveled up, and this will apply to any follower even if they're at level 0, she now has a plus 20 on top of the other stats that she already had. So she's taking a health boost and also a damage boost, which means that potentially with her health being increased even more than her base health was fully leveled up, she'll have a bit more HP and she'll do a little bit more damage. And she also has the same Irritate perk that can be disabled or enabled. I highly recommend keeping it enabled if you have the War Party on the split way, as we said, or if you have the well trained, it's definitely worth keeping enabled, just so that they take a little bit of heat off you if you don't want so much aggro, especially during boss fights. So as you can see, Delencia is following me, and then if I tell her to stop once again, she'll then reset back to her normal leveled up attributes that she had and her normal HP. because she no longer now receives that boost because she's no longer following me. And that is how that one works. So you can have a well-trained single follower with 20 in authority, or war party which gives you 2 followers, and this will work with absolutely any human followers in the game. So you could have 2 berserkers like this, or a Delincia and a berserker, or an archer and a berserker, or an entertainer and a fighter. So Delincia could be teamed up with Leah, for example. In war party, it doesn't matter what combination you use. These 2 are a good combo if you're going into like the unnamed city, for example, because of all the corruption. Leah will help you get rid of that as well. Just be aware if you have Delincia and Leah both running with you that you know which one's which by the outfits, and you don't cover the head, because when they're both in combat they both sound identical, which is quite funny. But obviously you can tell which is Leah and which is Delincia by the hairstyles if you don't have the head covered. So that is the basics of thrall commands. As I say, when you have them following you, you can hold down your action button and select stop if you want them to stop a minute, and then you must get them to return when you want them to return. And when you get back to base and you don't want them following you anymore, make sure that you hold your interact, you pick them up and you place them down, and that will lead them back in the original guard position that you set them in. So no matter where you are, even if they were guarding a door, you can do this. I mean, if you do forget, don't worry. If you log out and somebody was still following you, they will eventually change from following to scouting, and then a certain length of time, depending on how far away from your base you are, they will return home. So do not fear, you won't lose them. They'll return home eventually with all of their equipment and all of their health, and they'll be absolutely fine. So no worries on that front. Just for this to work with the well-trained or war party, you need all 20 points in authority. So that's your basic commands for your followers. So hopefully this is a refresher for people who already know the game in and out, but I've seen a few people recently that have joined our server that have never played the game before and weren't sure about how followers worked. So that just gives you a quick insight there to how the commands work and why the commands are important. Definitely recommend war party if you want to have a bit of fun with 2 followers. Well trained is an absolute blast because whoever's following you gets another boost to their health and their other stats, especially if it's a bearer, for example. They may not hit very hard, but that can turn them into an absolute tank. And you can use any combo of human follower that you like. Preferably you would want to be using a named person or named people if you're using war party, so your tier 4s, certainly from your Forgotten Tribe faction or Heirs of the North or Volcano. Yes, okay, the lower end named people are okay for starting out, but end game content you want your higher level named people, even your Sumerian berserkers. Now just before we go, obviously these all have different outfits as you've all seen, and all of these, if you've seen many of my other videos or live streams, you'll know that they are all set up in a particular armor set. And if I was to show you the armor set they wore, you wouldn't believe it and you'd think it looks a right mess, because the armor set that these are all wearing is actually this one on this left hand mannequin here, which is a mishmash of different armor pieces. So that is the Redeemed Legion helmet, which you learn the Silent Legion armor from the Black Keep, which is the dungeon up here in the snow. The Void Forged heavy chest piece, which is another craftable set that you can learn once again from the Sinkhole. The Godbreaker grips, which are from the Godbreaker armor in Clayo's Stronghold that you can also learn. And for my particular setup, mine use the Pictish Warchief legs and feet. Now that is a DLC. For that item you can also use Champion's leggings if you've learnt the Champion's armor, but personally I do recommend the Pictish Warchief if you have that DLC. If you don't have the DLC but you followed all your journey steps and you've learnt the perfected heavy armor, then the perfected legs and the perfected feet are absolutely perfect as well. I don't particularly use them, just even though the agility wouldn't affect them. I just have this thing that if a piece of armor has a stat on it I don't need, it's kind of pointless, but that's just personal preference. But if you're trying to build somebody for pure strength, then that's a really good setup to go, because it's really high armor values. You can craft all this yourself, and you can then use the master armor plating from your tinker's bench on it. You could use the use the master armor plating for yourself, but I do recommend the bulked plating. So the bulked armor plating is the better one for your followers, master armor plating for yourself, and this will give them pluses to all of their strengths. So if I just use this young lady here, for example, if we go to inventory, as you can see, that's what she's wearing with the bulk plating, and this is the bonuses that she gets to strength. Every single piece is giving her a bonus to strength plus high armor, for two reasons. The high armor, one, because it's got the bulked plating on each piece, but also because this was crafted with a tier 4 shield right armor, so that is the armor with the little shield symbol. Any tier 4 armor will give you your bonuses to your strength, so if it's 5 when it's crafted with a tier 4 instead of 3, then that's a better bonus for you. But the shield right is always recommended if you want more armor value for your armor. And they're all wearing exactly the same, only difference being they look more of a cohesive unit with what they're wearing, and I prefer the females being able to show off their hair as well, to be honest. I just think they look much prettier. That is working because with their outfit style, which is an illusion that on console we can use from the sorcery. So it's not a mod, it's an illusion used from the thaumaturgy bench with the sorcery, which is this bench here that you unlock from learning sorcery. So if you go down to this cave here, this is Shellback Hollow, and if you run through to the back, there is another cave called the Cave of Kurak, and you interact with the bench at the back there. That will teach you your Tome of Kurak and your little staff for your sorcery, but it'll also teach you this bench. And what you do is you place the armor piece that you want the stats for. So for example, a Redeemed Legion helmet you would place in here, and then if you want it to look like a pair of gold earrings, you place a crafted pair of gold earrings in here, hit this button and it will move it to here. And it's the same with any armor piece, so any helmet you want to look like a headpiece, you put in here. Same with the chest, hands, legs, the feet. Same with weapons. So if you had a really good legendary two-handed sword and you wanted to make it look like a two-handed stone sword, you could put a two-handed stone sword in here and it will delusion it into that. But that is how their sets are disguised. So they're wearing exactly the same, just as I am. We have an outfit style, but it's disguised as the illusionary system, so the earrings for the head and hands, and then mine is the black hand trousers, thief boots, and then the noble's chest piece, but it's really the full Redeemed Legion, so I'm actually getting all the benefits of the full Redeemed Legion as they are, but with a much nicer appearance. So that's how the illusionary system works. So if you don't want your followers all running around in something that looks like an absolute mishmash, you can even do this for this set as well. This is another good heavy armor set that is also craftable. This is the Stygian Soldier, which is another heavy armor set, but this is a really good full set to put on agility builds to give them. This is spawned, so it's not going to have as higher armor value yet or damage values because it was only spawned in this, but you'll get the increase on the damage and the higher armor. Again, use the bulked plating, and this is ideal for your agility builds, for you as a player even, but certainly for your followers if you want to boost their agility as much as you can. And once again, not too keen on the style, especially not the headpiece. The chest piece isn't too bad, but certainly don't like the headpiece. So again, you can also use this thaumaturgy system again to even convert it like this young lady here. This is a relic hunter treasure seeker, but she's not actually as a archer, she's an actual fighter. She has Masashi's black blade, and her outfit is once again gold earrings for the headpiece, war dancer for the chest piece, and then full Zamorian thief for the rest of it. just dyed in red and white to give it a bit of colour. But as you can see there, full Stygian soldier, again crafted with a shield right armourer and completed with the bulk plating to give her the highest armour value. So that's really good for your agility builds. This is just a male outfit style, for example, if you want to give a male a different outfit style. This is doing him in the Dragoon. He's just being used as a archer, which is what he is at the moment, but I just brought him in here just for display. That's just a mixture again of high Coranian trousers, thief boots, and then he's got the Cambushan Shaman, not Cambushan, the Barachan Reaver, sorry, headpiece on, and then the Zingarian freebooter jacket, again just dyed just for a bit of a mess around, just to see how it looks on a male, because that outfit just wouldn't look right. And that's if he's also an agility build, again as you can see, full agility but given a different style to make them look a bit more cohesive. And if you're talking early game and you're not at a point yet where you've not learned any of these recipes and you're not able to make any of these as yet, then there are lots and lots of different sets you could put on your follower. If they have good strength building stats but their HP bars are a little bit lower, try and build up their HP. There are two versions of these sets that you can get. This one you can only craft later on when you're at the higher level, but you can also go up to the Mounds of the Dead when you're in good armor and good weapons yourself to farm this. This is the Sumerian steel armor, so it's the head, chest, hands, legs and feet. This is a heavy armor once again, and this will give your followers a bonus to their health, so it's a really good health armor for early on while you're leveling them up. Like I say, if you have a higher strength booster bonus, give them the gruel to boost the strength, or if that's higher they'll gain a point in that but they need a bit of a health boost, then give them this armor like this, and then also give them the grilled steak for the boost. So if you're feeling confident enough to take on the Mounds of the Dead, go and kill a few people and pick up this armor, as you can now do. If not, you can make the epic version of this one, but you can also make the regular version early game even without a crafter. And this is the Barachan Reaver, or Barakan Reaver if you want to pronounce it like that. As you can see, again a heavy armor set and bonuses to health, so it's another good one for early to mid game to give followers or even yourself a bit of a health boost before you can potentially get this one. But two really good health sets there to keep your followers boosted until you obviously get them to end game, where you can potentially put them in something like this setup, where, believe you me, these guys with this armor setup I've never had any issues with. They survive perfectly fine and take next to no damage, and to be quite honest hit like absolute trucks, especially when you give them a pork bonus and a potion to boost the strength even more. And as long as you get them leveled up well, just absolutely perfect. So Stygian, and then the mishmash for the strength setup. By all means, if you want to use something slightly different, if you're not too bothered about the huge strength, you could swap these bottom pieces out for the Sumerian steel. So if you want to have a teeny bit more health, use those. But to be quite honest, if you did them in something like this, for when they're like that, they'll do absolutely fine. So do not worry. And then early to mid game, Barakan Reaver, and there are other little sets as well. But personally for followers, I would always try and put them in a heavy set because it gives them more armor and will potentially keep them alive a lot longer and help you to level them up even more successfully. Alright then guys, well that is follower commands, and just a little taster there for you of some armor you can put them in at early to mid game and even end game to keep them good, keep them protected, and also give them a bit of an outfit style if you don't want to keep the original armor set that you have. But it's all well and good having these people, but how do we get them in the first place? And if you want to know how to get them, there's a video on screen right now. Go check that one out, and I'll catch you in the next one.